So I'm very, very pleased to welcome Kaethe here. Before, I just want to do a little bit of introduction. So welcome to our science salon. And also, I'd like to acknowledge the sacred land on which the University of Toronto and the Fields Institute, as a consequence of it, lies. And this has been the site of human activity for more than 15,000 years. And it has been the land of the Huron-Wendat, the Petun First Nation, the Seneca, and the Mississauga of the Credit. And the territory, which is very important, was the subject of the Dish with One Spoon, One Poom Belt Covenant, which was an agreement between the Iroquois Federation, Confederacy, and the Confederacy of the Ojibwe, an allied nation, to peacefully share and care for the resources and the land that we're residing in. So today, this space is still the place, the home of many indigenous communities, and we are here right now on it. So I'm not gonna say anything else. La la la, we are grateful, etc., etc. We took their land. So anyway, so I'm here as so this talk is. It's a little bit complicated to describe in the sense that it is part of the Art Science Salon, which is this series that started years ago, I think in 2016, where Stephen Morris and Stephen is no longer with us, he's back in Vancouver enjoying his retired life. But so we founded this sort of organization, this collective, to facilitate dialogues across disciplines and specifically across the science, the humanities and social science and the arts. And this series evolved, and because right now I am part of the faculty of art and science at the University of Toronto, and specifically I am the coordinator of a first-year program called the New College, the new one. It's a first-year program that is interdisciplinary and is based on social justice. I started incorporating a lot of this content into the Art Science Salon programming, in part because the times dictate this. Technology and science are not getting less political, they're getting more and more political. And so I started inviting people who meaningfully address art, science, and technology to talk about to raise awareness about the environment, to raise awareness about social justice issues, to raise awareness about the colonial issues, etc., etc. So every year I call one or more artists in residence, and they do very short residence of 1 or 2 weeks. Last year we had Cecilia Vielka, Prada Pilar, and Nathalie Dubois-Calero. This year we have Kaethe Wenzel, who worked with our students in the last few weeks of the term. And we will have a public art installation launching next week on at the DG Ivy Library at New College on 20 Wilcox Street, and it's going to be on display. It's going to be very visible for many years to come, hopefully, and it's on the windows of the library. So this was a very long introduction to introduce Kaethe Wenzel. I have known Kaethe for
I don't know.
Many years.
Yeah,
several years.
Yeah.
Several years.
Yeah, I think you came over when I was doing the big whale in the living room.
Yes.
Yeah.
So before the pandemic, I went to her studio and I was amazed by her work. She made me try everything, and she has something for you today. So and I was amazed by her work, and I wanted to work with her for a long time, and then I ended up doing an installation with her. We did this really fun installation in Malta. And now I got to invite her here to do an intervention with my students. So I'm very excited. This is your first time in Canada?
Absolutely, first time. I once spent 3 hours in Vancouver illegally, but I don't think that counts.
So I don't know if you want to say something about yourself, but like this is my take on who like you as I know you. So
thank you so much.
Thanks so much for enduring my introduction. And without further ado, I'll give you Kaethe.
Yeah, thanks, Roberta. Thanks everybody for being here. Thanks for having me. Thanks for inviting me. As I said, first time Canada, first time Toronto, and I'm very happy to give this talk. And I hope there will be something in it that you enjoy. And if I'm not loud enough, you give me a little thumbs up sign, and I will like ramp up the mic or talk louder or come closer or something. Okay. Yeah, we have. The title is a bit of a tall order, like reimagining urban ecologies and collective futures. I actually come this step down. And I thought about it. And I think, yes, it's actually, because Roberta came up with a subtitle. I found it very flattering. I found it also kind of big, but I thought about it. And I think it does describe my work in so far that I think a lot of our ecological problems have to do with hierarchies. Yeah, you know that Octavia Butler said the problem was that not that we were an intelligent species, but hierarchies meant more to us than our intelligence, which is on display daily at the moment, can be observed daily. And so hierarchies and the idea that someone or something is more real, in the words of Rebecca Solnit, that someone or something is more real than others, that someone has more rights than others, and that some species have more rights than others, is very often the root of our problems, right? And I think I'm very often in my work, I try to get out of it. I try to find new ways of communicating. I try to encourage different communication between people. I have been working with participatory formats and collective authorship for a very long time. I built a lot of machines, which I'm not going to show you today because I focus on other stuff. But yeah.
I can see your website.
My web link is in the end on the last slide. Yeah, so I brought three. Whoops! I brought 3 examples of my work. I work with a lot of different media and different materials. I have very often been told that I should focus more, but I think I am focused. I just my materials and my media change according to the space and the context I work in. So yeah, I've brought 3 examples. The first is about urban languages, about urban signage, which is also the project I'm doing here in Toronto with your students, or with Roberta's students. Then I work with a lot with plants and biocolorants, which is also actually big in Toronto, because I mean Jason Logan and the Toronto Ink Company kind of, yeah, I found them extremely inspiring. And I work with bones also, and I thought I'll show you these examples. And if there, I know we have time for discussion afterwards, but actually, since we're not so many people, if you come up with a question in between, you just give me a wave, and maybe we can have a little more of a conversation, and seeing that we're a small group, manageable, and we have that privilege, I think. Yeah, so yes. I mean, if we want to get out of the problem of hierarchy and of some people being more real and having more rights than other, or some, yeah, people and critters, and then we need to change our communication, and something that is in very, very short supply, of course, in our culture is listening. In my experience, oops, that was too fast, sorry. And dialogue. I mean, there is no dialogue when no one listens. And of course, social media makers send all the time. Also, I think in Western culture, we do not really have a concept of listening, in my experience. In Japan, of course, somebody already wrote about listening in the 12th century, some Zen Buddhist, and I wish I could read the original, which I can't. But he wrote about the importance of making space. That was, of course, for landscape architecture. It was also for artistic composition. The Ma is space. And the importance of the balance between where there is something and where there is apparently nothing. But it also goes for conversations. And in Germany, we have a very, very famous text by Heinrich von Kleist, whom you need know, yeah? But he wrote this extremely famous essay about how thoughts come into being while we're talking. And it's a very smart, very intelligent text, but so his thoughts taking shape while he was talking included his sister there, sitting there listening and not saying anything. And of course, 150 years later, we would love to know what his very intelligent, interesting sister would have had to say if he just had listened. And also, if he had listened, maybe he wouldn't have to travel to the Wannsee one morning early and shoot himself. So, because of course, when you learn to listen, you're not so lonely. As a rule, very often people who complain about loneliness don't know how to listen. So listening, dialogue, work with the community, I think is at the root of many problems. And another thing is, of course, too narrow narratives about reality. And so one of my work groups is about urban signage. And you all know these signs. What you may not know is that a lot of our street signs go back to a UN resolution from 1968. 78 countries agreed to have similar street signs, which were all based on these pictograms. And obviously everybody knows this, and everybody knows that this is not showing reality, and that this is closer to reality, maybe. And at some point, we have these signs that pretend that are everywhere. Everybody reacts to them automatically. They tend to be neutral, and they're super stereotypical, and they silence a lot, and they disappear a lot of things. In this pretense of neutrality, so much is being lost. And so I just started playing around with them, just adding stuff. Bad hair day, I've actually heard that this describes a lot of traffic in Toronto. But of course, it could also be something else entirely. And oops, what's happening here? Yeah, maybe also this. Yeah, they just kind of kept coming. And this is something I also love to do with groups. And that's what I did with Roberta's students. We met, we talked about how they perceive the city and what they think is lacking in the city. So in order to create new signs about what they would like to be there, not just, don't park your car here, but how about meditate here, or be kind here, or whatever. Don't be xenophobe here. And of course, if you do this kind of thing, it has to go back into public space. I do that not so legally. I always tell my students to do this. They do this kind of thing. I tell them not, at first they think they need to do it at night in a black hoodie. And I tell them, please, to do it during daytime, and that they should put on the orange vest from their car boot. And if they have it, they should put up some red and white tape. Is it red and white in Canada too, or black and yellow? Yeah, the crime scene tape, and have somebody else with a clipboard standing next to them, and it works much better. Yeah. Actually, I was very proud. One of my students did it for the last elections in Germany. She systematically defaced a lot of street signs in Flensburg, like anti-radical right. So it was good. Yeah. So this kind of goes together. There are a lot of hijacking urban signage, making it into something that isn't like that also actually shows the needs of smaller groups or individuals, and hijacking places of public acclamation, like whatever it is, like billboards or banners, or it all goes together. That was during the pandemic at the university. That was completely legit. They wanted it, they paid for it. It was good. Yeah. Yeah. I did this.
In the United States right now.
Hmm?
We need these in the United States right now because they're going against diversity, equity, inclusion.
I know.
That would be great if people started putting.
Yeah, we should try it. I think we need them a bit everywhere. But I don't know about Canada. I know you have Poilievre and everything. In Germany, every right-wing small white man wants to be a mini Trump right now. So maybe we need them a little bit everywhere. Yeah.
There was a group in Toronto in market to go out and alter signs and add new signs.
Yeah, great. Yeah.
And they would do it very, like, almost identically to a city sign. So
that's how it works best. Yeah.
People would come up and they wear the little construction.
Yeah.
Is that a new direction for the?
Yeah. So it's I don't claim it as my very own idea. It's something that makes sense. Yeah. So this I did. I did this parking lot. It put my whole university in an uproar because people arrived in the morning and they wrote to our technicians asking whether all the parking was reserved for people with a handicap now. And they got a lot of really, really angry emails. And then I had to organize an email to the entire university explaining that it was up to everybody to choose their favorite group in the morning that they wanted to feel to belong to, that they could change on a daily basis. It was okay, yeah? And that they could just have their pick, and that also there were neutral lots. If they don't want, if they want to be on their very own, it was also okay. Yeah. Yeah, so this is just, it started as a joke, but it kind of developed its own deeper meaning. And I think it makes especially sense if you do it in a group, like we did here. Now, I felt very privileged to do it with your students who are very aware. And I mean, in a very short time, like 90 minutes, they came up with really good ideas. And I'm sorry I didn't bring these students' ideas now, but of course you're invited to come on.
Surprise.
On April the 3rd, or I can also show them to you on the phone if you really want to see them. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, are there questions about this? No. Okay. One other thing I'm doing. Oh yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah, sure.
So to park, you would have to run them over.
Well,
did you get any feedback about what it would feel like to run park on top of the
no. Well, one of my students said she always picked the woman with a camera head because that student was a video artist. So I don't think they felt like running them over because everybody is used to these markings with a wheelchair. And it isn't considered violence against disabled people to park there. So I think there was no awareness for that violent aspect of it. I counted on that actually. Yeah. Oops. No, I'm going in the wrong direction. Sorry. Yeah. So I work a lot with the urban space, with the urbanscape. And of course, this is a piece about the city, because this is something you find in cities. This is a way of regulating cities, of regulating movements in cities, and of assigning space, and of co-opting space when you undermine the public signage by creating your own. This is more about an attempt to learn more about the city, about mapping the city. It's more linked to bioart. It's about a cartography of the city by seeing the city through the lens of micro-local urban color. basically what I do is I go to one address, or I go to many individual addresses in one place. I collect all the biocolorants I can find, and then in that one place, and then I make a chart. And as I said, it's a mapping project, and the idea is to try and perceive the city through micro-local color, which makes sense if you remember, which you probably all know, that of course, micro-local color depends on the climate, on the soil, on pollution, on the kind of water you find there. All that changes the color you can extract from a plant or also a mineral, for example. Yeah, this is kind of my improvised ink lab. I work also with minerals, not so much, but also, and okay, imagine you go, I think I did the first experiment with my studio building, which is just a rundown building in the middle of Northeast Berlin. And there isn't much growing there, but enough, you know? And so I collected I turned the bricks into pigment, and you can use those. But a lot, of course, is also plant material. And I use plant material that I foraged, that grows there, but also I use stuff from the garbage. So I cannot use anything that doesn't grow in Berlin, but I can use stuff that has been imported and used. So I can use your leftover avocado pits or my leftover pomegranate peel, so because garbage is okay. Yeah, and of course, foraging rules always apply. So if you want to work with plants and if you work in an extractive manner, which this is, then yeah, please do it respectfully. And think about non-human enrichment, think about what might benefit the plant. Don't take so much, don't kill plants, only take where there's plenty, take as little as possible. If you have to cut boughs, do it so that the plant can grow better afterwards, or keep your hands off it, then you just have to live without it. This is not about exploitation, it's an attempt to do something else. And yeah, and as I said, I think food is for eating. That's what I always tell my students. You don't go and buy blueberries, or you don't go and gather blueberries and then use them for effing ink. Please eat them, and the leftovers or something that goes bad, you can use it. But please respect the food also. Don't waste food on this thing. No, there is enough. There really is enough. And if you're really good, then you give something back, like go back with some fertilizer, coffee grounds, tea leaves, green tea leftover. Plants love it. Yeah, and of course, water also changes plant inks depending on what you have. I collected Berlin rain, and actually it made a sediment that was so interesting that I didn't even work on it. I just have this little mineral color that is called Berlin rain, which is kind of this taupe, somewhere between brown and gray. And yeah.
Do you have it analyzed?
No, I should.
Yeah.
I haven't found the right person to do it yet. Unsurprisingly, it is pretty exactly the color of an unrenovated facade in Berlin. So there will be a mixture of soot, sand, old plaster, and exhaust fume residue. Yeah. 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 And of course, you know, when you work with natural inks, the first thing a lot of people say is, but they fade. And it's true. Some of them do. The mineral colors don't, of course, paints, if you make them into paint, the mineral pigments, of course, do not so much fade, but a lot of the plant stuff fades, especially when extracted from berries, when it's based on anthocyanins, as opposed to tannins. You all know a lot about that? Should I explain it? Okay. Okay, so there are a lot of dye plants which have been known for a very, very long time, and all the textile people know them. And I, you know, I'm not a textile person. I come along and I keep asking stupid questions of them all the time. And basically, in biocolorants from plants, we have tannin-based colorants, which you all know, which are all the famous colorants like walnut husks or oak galls, all the stuff that the monks used to make into ink in the Middle Ages. All these are tannin-based because they last for hundreds of years. And normally they give you yellow to caramel to orange colors. That is why when you work with, it's very, very easy to come up with something yellow, orange, or brown. The problem are the others, like blue and red and so on, all the stuff that, that was famous in earlier times, the stuff that, for example, there is the Brazil wood that made, the Brazil wood tree that made this wonderful red, obviously from Brazil. And the Portuguese crown sold the monopoly on exploiting, on cutting that tree for 150 years and then was gone. Like people would buy the monopoly, have a ship, go over to Brazil, have people go into the jungle, cut only, cut just the Brazil wood, take it out, take it back to Portugal to make nice red cloth. And after 150 years, they were gone. So there is also a lot of colonial history attached to this. And also a lot of envy, coming to Canada, I know that your sumac is much better than the sumac I find in Berlin. So I already stole some from an empty lot and I'm going to take it to Berlin and try it out. And find out whether actually the sumac in Canada is better or whether I fuck up, which is also a possibility, because I cannot extract the right kind of red from it somehow. Yeah. So the tannin-based stuff is acid-based, lasts a long time. And then you have the anthocyanins, which are in berries and which are totally super unstable. They fade, they change, they react with the air, they react with the acidity of your paper. They are kind of super sensitive. Depending on acidity or alkalinity, you can get like 6, 7 colors out of one substance. So for example, if you ivy berry, I got 5 different colors out of these effing ivy berries. And then, but it has no shelf life at all. So you have to use it right away. If you put it into the fridge, it turns into a jelly and turns brown in like within a week. Yeah? So whenever I talk about this, somebody says, but they fade. And it's true, but that's also why it's fun working with them.
So that was my question. What's their on paper or on like fabric?
Well, it depends, it depends a lot. There are many ways to stabilize them. If you add a modifier, it stabilizes them. If you add oxidized metal, which are normally very toxic, it stabilizes them, and it varies from case to case. But there are a lot of ways to deal with it. A, maybe you want it. I always tell my students, if you're forced to sign a contract you don't want to sign, B, please take like the beetroot juice, which will vanish within 8 weeks in a closed book in a dark drawer. It will just be gone. So because that's also the question: what do we want from colorants? We're using wonderful paint stuff that has been developed over hundreds of years for brightness and durability. And we are used to a very, very set palette. And we are used to like normalize mixing behavior. But we use stuff that is basically, it all comes from the petrol industry. It's all based on effing oil. And a lot of it contains solvents. And a lot of it is basically, while it degrades outside, it turns into microplastic. This is the stuff we're using. Yeah, and it's wonderful. I mean, I love the stuff we have because the brightness is incredible. It's like, but it is like, it's like fossil fuel for your car. It's just so powerful. It's like sugar. It's great, but it's also not so good for us. And I went to a wonderful conference in Helsinki last year, and I had a very interesting colleague from India. She said, "Yeah, well, we have a 10,000-year history with colorants. And we have 150 years of synthetic colorants, and they have already fucked up so much. Maybe 150 years is all we've had. Maybe we will, use them differently, or we will have to start using them differently." So you see, there's a lot of background. You see, the project is still new. Why I can talk so much about it. This is just a short introduction. What I do this is what happens, when you make them, testing. And actually, this was the best I could get out of the European sumac by modifying it, this kind of pink. But I hear that the North American sumac gives you a really nice rusty red, and so I'm jealous. I try. Yeah. This is what I do. So this is part of my first mapping of Berlin, going to one location and making these color charts that are a way of seeing just one single address in Berlin through color. So like you have the first one, for example, is where the wall used to be, one spot of where the wall used to be. And you see this fading blue, which is blackberry blue, and which is basically gone by now. And you see the third one, which is a park next to Lagmauer Park, also where the wall used to be. And it's all these pinkish and yellow and apricot tones. That's all fruit trees. That's all tannin-based. That's going to last, and so on. And you see the mix of minerals and everything. This is the first one I ever did. This is my studio building. There was a lot of copper. And this is ash from my oven, because I still have a coal oven for heating, and some coal. And there is a very little bit of elderberry in there that for some reason has remained stable. I have no idea why. It can also depend on the plant, where it grows, and what kind of bad stuff is in the ground that may have stabilized it. If it if it grows on a place with heavy metals in the ground, it may actually modify the juice. And yeah, a colleague who is a chemist asked me whether I also forage for food, and I was like, not in the city. Yeah, not so much.
Not even dandelion.
No.
The young ones, especially.
No, not Berlin is a city of many dogs. So, no. So yeah, I experimented with because so this is a dynamic installation. These will not stay the way they are, and it's part of the work, and it's actually something I like about it. And I think an option is also re-dyeing, because we talked about fading textiles. These yellow robes in India that the monks in India wear. Those are dyed with curcuma. Actually, it's best sold in alcohol. I'm not sure they do that. And it fades, and you just re-dye it every year. You just re-dye it once a year. And because these temperamental colorants are so dependent on surfaces, I experimented with a lot of surfaces. Before I came up with a paper for the big charts, I tested it on 10, 15, 20 different types of papers. And I was so sad when none of the Asian papers worked, And it worked with, of course, it worked with Arches, like Arches watercolor paper, like super, super expensive, rag, acid-free, museum grade, blah. So my purse was sad, I was glad. Yeah. I also experimented with glass, and it was very interesting because on glass, the pinks, the berry pinks that on paper oxidize within minutes to blue were stable on glass. Found that very interesting. And there were a lot of interesting phenomena on glass. And but the most important thing was that then I made these videos about the mixing behavior. Because as you can imagine, we are used to very specific, very bright palettes. And we are used to always getting the same result. Like, okay, we mix yellow and blue and it makes the usual result. But when you have a colorant that is based on, or that changes its hue, depending on its acidity, like a berry ink, that means you can mix blue and yellow and mix pink. And I like that a lot. So I made these videos. And now I have to apologize because I brought a really nice video snippet on my laptop, but it died in New York. My hard drive died. I suspect it was a reaction to politics, but I cannot be sure. I don't know why. It was kind of desperation. Oops, this didn't work. Yeah, okay. So I brought these, I had to download these video snippets from my social media just to give you an impression. because mixing natural colorants, they also make these interesting structures and shapes, and just to give you an idea.
Can you see all right, or do you need me to turn off the light? I'm going to turn off the light. But it's either on or off.
Ah, nice. Come on. Ah, here we go. Yeah, so the music is from my social media account. I'm looking for good sound artists to make some good sound with this. See how it turns blue. Okay. Just one more example, then we're done. Okay, now find a way back. Na komm. Sei nicht so. Ah, yeah. Ah, that worked. Good. Good. So, yeah, this I showed you the videos. What's going on here? Something is blocked now. Oh, well. Okay. Yeah, but you have seen that. That comes from. Yeah, but we do it this way. No, not working. Okay. No. Bad. Yeah, it was supposed to happen. Okay. Good. Good. Okay. How tired are you? More? Okay. Good. Okay. So this was kind of an attempt to develop a new perspective on urban structures, not just by making a mapping or some kind of mapping or cartography of a city like Berlin based on mostly plant inks, but of course also because your perception changes when you walk through the city looking for biocolorants. When you go to an address and you're not focused on the house or who lives there or on the next shop, or so you're only focused on, does anything interesting grow here, or is there some, can I wash dust off the facade or something? I did a chart for our National Library on Unter den Linden, and all they had was an old vine, and the rest was just dirt. I took different types of dirt from the facade and from the ground. But I think our brain loves foraging. Our brain is wired for it. It makes you really happy. And the city changes because normally, or I look at the city as something that is made of buildings and streets and social structures. And then suddenly it was mostly vegetation with a few buildings scattered in between. I mean, really, seriously, it was like, oh, there's a building, but there's much more interesting stuff around. And that was interesting. And that was also part of the project. Yeah. Another material I work with is, and another thing I think is important for getting out of hierarchical thinking. And we know that we live in an age where we aren't even able to imagine a real alternative to capitalism anymore. So what we need is, besides communication and listening, what we need, and also listening to other species, is to think alternatives. And that's why I work a lot with these hybrids, like why a lot of the pictograms turn out as hybrids. And I also work a lot with bones, which are also garbage. In our society, animal bones are garbage. Our bones are, of course, very important, but animal bones are mostly garbage. And I started working with bones a long time, but like I was making corset pieces, and of course a classical corset is different. Is called bone, half boned or fully boned, and it's different with whale bone, which is not bone. But at some point, I thought I'd just try making a shape out of bones. I was interested because this way of shaping the body with material from a different body was a kind of sculpting tool, but it also had to do something with body snatching, and I found it interesting. And what I hadn't realized was actually how many and how little animal bones there are. I just thought one day, I want bones, I want small bones. And I went to a number of restaurants in the neighborhood, and no one had bones because they do not use the entire animal anymore. They get the fillets under vacuum in plastic by the hundreds, and that's it. And they don't use the bones. And there was just one place, this one very, very delicious Thai place, who used the entire duck to make their broth. And I went there and I asked them for the bones, and they were super, super kind and said, come back in 3 days. And I came back after 3 days and nobody knew anything. And that happened like 2 or 3 times. And then I understood that they thought I was completely crazy, and they were just being very, very considerate and very, very sweet. And so I brought some photographs and I explained that I was an artist working with bones. And then they actually started collecting duck bones for me. Next time I came, there were these two, they had these 2 really sturdy guys with little white caps came out of the kitchen with this huge blue sack full of duck debris. And because they have it's not such a big place, but they sell like 200 duck dishes a week or so. So, okay, imagine the carcasses of 200 ducks. And I had this bag on my back actually, and all the dogs of Berlin thought we should be friends because we had so wonderful common interests, and yeah. And since then I've been working with bones and making bones into shapes. So this is from the workshop, but I think it's an interesting and important part of the process. This is mostly horse ribs from small ponies. I found them somewhere on a flea market. And you see the process is like adapting the shape of the found shape of the bones to a human shape, which is not without violence, but it is also kind of adaptive, kind of an adaptive process. And of course it's macroanatomical, and so it's referencing more a lot of historical medicine rather than modern medicine. And yeah, this is the making, and this is what comes out of it. So what you have here is a body shape made from bodies that were devoured in our system of mass consumption. And these are bodies that you can theoretically wear or reanimate. But of course, it will not really work. And a lot of my work, my other work, which I'm not showing today, is about prostheses that don't work. So in a way, this is an homage to the animals we eat, and an attempt to make them alive again, which doesn't work. And yeah, I mean, same thing for wild animals. When they're gone, they're gone. Yeah, and somehow we don't seem to be able to stop it. I have like 17 of those. I also have these. somebody said, why don't you make babies? I said, oh yeah, good idea. Let's make some babies. These are just a few in a show situation. So you see different shapes, different hybrids, different bones. And this is like 5 meters long. There's a big one. That's the one that Roberta saw. I made, my studio was too small. My studio was too small. I had to make it in my living room, and it blocked my living room for 2 years or so. But actually, every colleague or curator who came and had tea under this carcass afterwards wanted to have it in a show somewhere. So that was okay. I love to bring it over. It's actually collapsible and fits into a 30 centimeter by 90 centimeter by 110 centimeter box. Not sure about the inches. You can do the calculation, I'm sure. Yeah, so it seems different, but actually you see in terms of material, it is connected to urban garbage. It is connected to the color topography project. And in terms of hybrid bodies, it is connected to the pictograms, which I think is where we come full circle. And yeah, this was basically what I wanted to show. And you see, even the big one it's like a 2-person costume. You can, if you look closely, you can see these round holes in the back where theoretically you can put your head through and wear it, and try to reanimate it in some way. Yeah, so it's a kind of recycling project. Yeah, that's, oh yeah, actually, yeah. Actually, I brought, yeah, this is my catalog, this is my website, and actually, I brought these for you to try. If anybody feels like trying these.
I'm not sure the light on. This is the fun part.
Exactly.
It was not fun before.
Yeah, this is the practical part. Also, I also brought stickers if anybody wants to re-sticker. Yeah. I'm also sure that a lot of people can identify with this one. Yeah, probably. Or this one. Yeah.
Is there a chainsaw lady?
No, that's a different. I'm so sorry. That's a different sticker sheet. No. Yeah, I also like the natural lady with the hair under her arms and on the legs. Take one. No, take an entire sheet, please. Yeah, take a sheet. No, actually, you can just, that it's pre-cut. Yeah. So.
How do you go through customs with that?
Nobody asked me anything.
Really?
I went to New York with this, and from New York to Toronto, and nobody. If they had asked me, I would have told them it was 3D printed. That's what everybody assumes anyway.
Yeah, you can't say that it's art.
I just had it in my hand luggage. Nobody asked me. I would tell them I have a special kink. This is like my erotic wear. So then they stop asking normally because I'm old, that works. Then nobody wants to know once you're over 35. So yeah. So good. Yes. These are actually probably raccoon and fox. Can you go in it? Oh, wait, it's wrong side, actually. Do you know there's a famous stories about raccoons in Berlin? They're not native because, of course, they are Canadian.
Oh my God. Oh no, in Berlin there's raccoons.
We have lots of raccoons because I think, but this is the wrong side. I'm sorry, this is the right side. I mixed it up. Or did I make two right ones? No, they're both right ones. Did I mix this up? Please take the right hand.
I think it's just
there are raccoons in Berlin because we had a raccoon farm close to Berlin where they. Yeah, go ahead.
It's not gonna go up.
Yeah, it doesn't go up.
No. Size issues. That's all.
Then we just she just do it like this.
Oh, it goes in.
Yeah, it goes there.
I love this.
We just have to. I'm not entirely sure because I had problems with the. Okay, this is not the right size for you.
No, you have to make it my size now.
Yes, I make smaller ones, I promise.
Do you think that this will fit or?
Actually, you need we just finished here, okay?
You have it. So you have to put it.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It's you have tiny hands. It's
I think my hands are huge. It's just it's not fitting here. But it's
maybe.
beautiful.
Yeah, but the idea is that you can actually, that you have more control of the fingers,
Oh.
Mm. I will tell you the raccoon story
Have you
later.
ever seen the indigenous chicken dance?
No.
So just look it up, chicken dance at powwow, because they dress up like with like chicken feathers and like they exaggerate themselves as chicken dance.
What was the other animal? Raccoons and
Fox.
Oh,
Like European foxes.
Okay, I'm gonna give
Actually,
it back.
you need
Somebody
it. This
else
is
should
actually,
try that
I
because
think it's the
tried
right
them
hand
so many
side.
times.
You have, yeah,
Now you get
I
to
think,
try it.
yeah, put your thumb here maybe, yeah. And then you go through these, oops.
Yeah.
Yeah, we need to, yeah. Yeah, this is kind of a large size. And the raccoon story is that they had like a pelt farm. They grew them for coats. Yes, but the story is actually good because they started doing that in the 20s, and in 43 with the bombings, the farm was damaged and all the raccoons got out. That was the big raccoon escape in Germany. And now they're 30 or so. Now we have a population of 500,000. So they had a lucky escape.
so can I've worked with bones